Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another Telecom Wiseguys. Katie, I always like seeing your picture with the white hat on there.
I
It's,
know, it's great.
it was kind of meant for you. Uh, everybody, my name's Tim McLean. I'm the director of marketing here at Commio, and I get to work with some really smart people who interface with our customers every day, like Katie Reddick, who runs our customer success team. How you doing, Katie?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing great. The sun is shining.
It is.
Customers are using voice and messaging, and we're all just keeping these wheels turning, right? You know.
There we go.
Well, we thought we'd take a step back from, normally these topics revolve around, excuse me, sort of the carrier layer of voice and messaging, which is what Cameo does. But we thought we'd share, some tips and tricks to help improve contact center interactions, which is, one of our biggest customer bases. They're using omni-channel voice and messaging to power, interactions with customers. And, we thought we'd take 15, 20 minutes of your time to share. We are recording this. Save your questions to the end, all that good stuff. And with that, we'll just go ahead and Katie, we'll just go ahead and dive right in.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Well, yeah, let's go through the numbers because, this is a big market, right? I mean, it's growing, really fast. When they say CPaaS is growing really fast, but the call center market is growing even faster, I think.
It is. It's crazy how kind of our customer base has expanded over the years and the products that they're offering. It's definitely coming up a lot more often than it did, say, a couple of years ago.
That's right. That's right. So we love to grow right alongside this, and it's kind of equally important to have a well-trained contact center team manning those phones, but also having great sounding voice and properly working text messaging on the other side, which is where we come to play. So as growth happens, having people in the marketplace like us, I think makes a big deal. So as that growth is coming, we also know that folks who are interacting with these contact centers have a lot of different expectations, right?
They do. From the customer side, obviously the call quality is important, but getting to the right person within a timely manner. And then, of course, making sure that you're not having to go through a bunch of jumps and hoops to get to the person you need to speak to. I know that's a frustration when people call in. You have a quick question and you can't get to the right person. Nothing's more frustrating than a long wait on a simple question.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, wait times are important, and I think also the really big number that stands out to me, the more that I read about contact centers, is that call volumes are growing; they're not shrinking. So we all think that it's all text messaging and AI. Yeah, that's not true. People want to interact with the human being to get problems solved. Um, and these AI-based tools are growing quite handsomely. In fact, I actually saw an article today that there was a contact center, I think it was in France, maybe, that laid off 60% of their staff, unfortunately, and are
Oh,
replacing
wow.
them with AI. So, that's it's going to happen. I think you're going to see more and more of it, but it still is important to have these operations up and running and properly staffed and trained because I think at the end of the day, most people want to interact with an actual human being.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, we
Yeah.
see it, as well. We obviously have a ticketing system and a knowledge base, but sometimes, a quick phone call to us is just the quickest and easiest way to get you an answer or a resolution. So I don't see that ever going away.
Yeah, for sure. So, again, if we sort of lean into the AI portion of this, we know that it's continuing. I don't know if you've tried Katie, the new ChatGPT voice person who sounds a lot like Scarlett Johansson. She may be suing them over this.
That's
If you
great.
if you see the movie Her, which I think at the time people were a little creeped out, they're not creeped out now.
Right.
It exists, and it does sound a lot like Scarlett Johansson between you and me.
Yep.
But really, I think people are businesses are looking at the light for the light at the end of the tunnel here, and that's that. Look, if they have a knowledge base, um, they can create a large language model and be able to automate with real, almost human sounding voices, the ability to get people to the answers quickly, and sort of I'm sorry, Katie, because I always think when I think about this transition that's happening, I feel like how the world must have felt when we used to have rooms full of, mostly women who were sitting in front of these huge panels
Yep.
with plugs and they were just plugging and unplugging calls. And then we
Right.
invented an automatic switch, which, by the way, do you remember the story about how telephone switching was invented? Like, what problem was it solving? Did you
No,
hear
I don't
about, do you,
know.
do you hear this? The story, this goes around like every year on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Somebody reposts, but it's basically like, apparently there was like, I think it was a mortuary service in this town, and there were two competing uh, mortuaries,
Yeah.
and one of them I think was staffed by the wife of one of the owners of one of them, and she was the one to make sure that he always got the calls for that
Oh,
service.
that's
And
funny.
so the guy invented an automatic switch. Like, no, they anyway,
Yeah,
look
that's
it up.
great.
It's entirely true. So now this is taking it to a whole another level where, oh my gosh, a computer can ingest our knowledge base and get people the answers they need quickly, right? Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, just as a customer, anything that I can do when I'm working with companies to get the answer quicker, I'm all for it. So it definitely makes sense that it's trending that way.
that's right. Yeah, and the technology just keeps getting better, and
Oh yeah,
I've experimented with it. It's kind of amazing how fast those models can learn and adapt and respond, and it's just going to get better. It's exciting. We're all going to have to adjust. This is the way it is. Uh, but I think planning ahead, by the way, so this is something where we come into play, where there's lots of new startup companies out there and contact centers alike who need to build a phone tree, basically
yeah,
this IVR, as we call it, right? Interactive voice response system. So these are just some tips to really help like when you're developing one of these that, you got to plan, design, and test these things, right? It's really important.
for sure. Because no one wants to call in and then get passed around from person to person, just trying to get to the right group.
Yeah,
And these can be very, very basic. Just getting people to the right group as quickly as possible. But, certainly the larger the company, the more kind of departments you have or more kind of questions you may end up with, it gets a little bit more intricate. But yeah, just planning ahead is the best way to do it, kind of thinking through who's going to be calling you and who they're going to want to talk to.
that's right. That's right. And I think it's important too to not skip, the last two or three steps here, which is you may think you've built the best phone tree in the world, but hopefully you're recording those calls and somebody or several people are listening to those interactions because I don't know about you, but we all the time when we review our customer interactions, we realize, oh, we need to build a piece of content around this or that. People are having problems with something as easy as, setting up two-factor authentication. So we'll make a workflow for that. It's the same thing with your phone tree. It's like listen for the common elements, which is why I think sometimes, Katie, when I have to interact with a company and I listen to their IVR, I always love it when it starts with, "Oh, are you calling about this?" And you're like, "Well, yeah, that's the most important, highest call volume thing. Yes, I'm calling about that." And I'm like, "Thank you for listening.
Exactly.
You didn't have to
Right.
wait. You didn't have to, you know what I mean?" Anyway, so
Yep.
it's always good to listen. Yeah, imagine that, listening to your customers and responding. It's a great thing. And then of course it's all about oh, I like it. I hate waiting. Yes.
That's great.
Love it. Love it. We know who made this. Hey Sherry, we see you. Princess Bride. Very nice. Sorry, did I ruin it? We should have asked the crowd.
No, I know, right?
Anyway. Yeah, minimize the wait time. I love this. Let callers know their wait time. I actually really appreciate this when I call. It's like your average wait time is 8 minutes. I'm like, okay, great. I got eight
Yeah.
minutes. Put the
Yep.
phone down. Wait. Yeah.
Right.
So, but I think this list is really good. So it's like, make sure that people have alternative sources of information based on, what you're offering. And this is great. And by the way, this is something I think that surprises a lot of people. Like if you run a contact center, make sure that those numbers, whether they're toll free or 10-digit long code numbers, make sure that they are SMS enabled and you have a tool sitting on it that can, watch for people messaging you because like my son's 22 and he said this to me before. He's like, Dad, I'm texting this company and they don't respond. And I'm like, who are you texting? And I'm like, why would you think that their main phone number would be text enabled? Like anybody who's 25 and under expects every phone number to be text enabled
Yep.
today.
And we see it. I mean, we have
Yeah.
customers that are only using voice. But then you go and look in their account and they're getting texts. They
Yeah.
may not have it set up to go anywhere on their end, but someone's texting their number.
Yeah. Well, and the good news is too, Katie, because we do this a lot, is you don't even look the old days, people hear that and they go, "Oh my gosh, no, what am I going to have to do to make my numbers text enabled?" And it used to be that, you used to have to potentially port the number and you'd have to have a new provider. And you don't have to do that anymore. We do something called hosted messaging now, where you can keep the phone number with whoever you originally purchased it from. Your voice doesn't have to change at all. But we at Commio, for instance, could say, "Oh, we'll take over the text messaging portion. You don't have to do anything. And we will make sure that you can get those messages," right? Which is pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, anything you've built out, whether it's, your phone system, your IVRs, all of that can stay with your current carrier and you can simply just get it loaded for messaging so you're not missing out on that. We can definitely help you out with that.
Yeah. I love these points too. Like, nobody likes to have a second or third ad played to them when they're on hold, right? Well, maybe with the exception of I was on hold for a plane ticket a couple of weeks ago and they kept making these other offers. And I'm like, okay, I guess I understand those ads, but yeah, I'm not sure what else an airline would be able to tell me except for their rates to Europe are cheaper or something like that.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah,
if you can, I know that even in our phone tree, we have some messages that play a little bit that are a little bit more like useful information. Like, hey, did you know that
right.
Commio could do X, Y, and Z? And it actually does occasionally spark a side conversation. So, you want to pay attention to what else is playing while they're on hold. And also, this is a no-brainer, but I think a lot of businesses forget, staff up during those high volume call times. It's not just for retail during the holidays. If you're FTD or whatever and you're selling flowers, you better have double the staff on hand for Mother's Day, right? Because by the
Exactly.
way, we saw those call volumes, people.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
Mother's Day is real. We actually really we like Mother's Day around here and Father's Day, and the call volumes go up anyway.
for
So
sure.
so we also have to be on call too, anyway. But make sure you staff up. Um, and also don't miss or don't drop that call. So and this has happened to me. Like I called in, and the next thing you know, it's like, okay, this is my third try where I was on hold for 11 minutes, and then click, the
Yeah,
call gets dropped. So, and I think a lot of times that's probably, correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, it's a lot of times like people, you can buy minutes, one of two ways. You can buy sessions and then you can
yeah,
buy minutes. So if you're old school buying sessions, let's say you buy, I don't know, 300 sessions, 200 sessions, whatever it is. As soon as number 201 hits, they got to drop somebody off, right?
yeah,
So
yep.
that's why Cameo, we don't do it by sessions. We do it by minutes. So you can have, we can decide what your call volumes can be. But anyway, yeah, nobody wants to have their call dropped,
No,
right?
especially after you've been waiting, even if it's only those 8 minutes, you don't want it to drop.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the next bullet's important too. Inbound and outbound redundancy is really important. And again, that's something that, let's be real. It's something that only really Commio can help with. So we have a brand new service that we have internally that is available to our customers where, there are times, especially if you're running a contact center. By the way, when I tell people this, they don't believe that we can do this. We absolutely can do this. Okay, I'm just going to start with that right out of the gate because it's something
Yep.
brand new that we're itching to get integrated into our platform and marketed. But anyway, as the director of marketing, I'm very excited about this. If you run a high volume contact center and suddenly people from a certain area can't call in, right? Like it's usually a state, it's sort of maybe, it's locally based, they're having problems. That's an inbound redundancy problem where your number is owned by a certain company, it's in a certain area, and they're having an outage, they're having a service
Yep.
interruption. And there's nothing you can do except for filing a support ticket and saying, hey, nobody from San Francisco can call my contact center today. And then what? You wait 24 hours, 48 hours. All of a sudden the phone starts to ring again. Oh, don't worry, we got you. Well, the cool thing with Commio is that we have the ability where you can actually call us and say, look, we're having this problem. We can move you to another inbound solution, another inbound company for a short period of time while your original sort of, provider cleans up their act, and then we
Yep.
switch it back over. And it's invisible to you. So literally in several minutes, you will be back up and running, instead of waiting days. So that's on the inbound side. And I think everybody's very familiar with outbound redundancy. Like nobody wants to just contract with one company like AT&T. If they
Right.
have an outage, you're down. So most people have two or three carriers, right? With us, guess what? You can have all five toll free or 40 on the domestic side, So
Yeah.
you want to make sure you have redundancy on both ends, um, and get that resolution. And you want to have some, like we have software that really helps make sure that our calls sound amazing, but also have the best possible price. So we're not saying it's cheap because it's not about cheap, because you know what cheap means. It's going to sound like garbage and there's going to be delay. We
Yeah.
have both. We have both, which is great with our technology. So love it. So after the call, I love this too, and I love getting these surveys, and especially if I get really good service. I know people say they only write reviews if something bad happened. Okay, maybe that's an axiom that's still true, but it's not true for this guy. Maybe it's because I'm a Gen
Yeah.
Xer and I like to give kudos to people when they do a good job. But send me that post-call survey, because if I had great service, I wanna say it, and I'll even like write down the name of the person I'm talking to, in hopes that that survey comes back, and I'll say, oh, Katie did a great job,
Right.
answered all my questions, 5 stars. Please give her her bonus that she's absolutely due. That kind of thing. Because
Right.
that's what's happening in the background. Anyway, yeah.
Yep.
So ask about them. How was the call quality? Tell me about the agent. What did they do to go above and beyond? And did they resolve your issue? Make sure you're answering all those questions. And I don't think to date I've actually gotten one of these, but I hope that somebody out there is listening, because getting that as an email, for instance, is great, but I'd love to be able to get it as a text message. You know,
Right.
hey, you just got off the phone with, Tim. Tell me how he did. And I'm
Exactly.
sure I'll hit you up for a survey, and make sure that you're not just doing this as a short-term thing. I think we all do this in our work. I don't know about you, Katie, but I'll go out. We'll have one project. We'll do one part of the business, and then we do
Yeah.
it once, then we forget. And
Right.
you want to make sure that you're doing this continually, right?
Yeah.
Have those
Exactly.
What are your key performance indicators for your contact center, and are the agents and the technology living up to it? Yeah, that's important. So, um, I think last but not least is, let's really talk about omni-channel. So there are some really great voice providers out there. There's some really great messaging providers, but there's only a few of us in the middle that can do both and give you the APIs to make sure that everything plugs together nicely, and also gives you both the human and the technology pieces you need to monitor it, improve quality, and all those good things. So, yeah, you want the best of both worlds, and you can have it if you sign with the right provider, right?
Definitely. And, like Tim said before, it's you don't have to commit to everything. If you have a voice provider that you feel good with and you've built out integrations, we can help you with any piece of the puzzle. We're happy to do it all for you as well. But internally we have great onboarding teams. You will have not only through onboarding but into your full production account a team of people that are here to help you with things as simple as building out your call tree. If you have questions, we're happy to help.
Yeah. And I think that's important, Katie. I think people are just, I think I like a lot of things in business. You get used to the fact that, oh, well, my telecom provider is unreachable. If I have a problem,
Yeah.
it's just never going to happen. And then there's people like us out here saying, no, we actually really do have a team of humans. They're all based in the United States. And
Yeah.
yeah, we might ask you to send us an email, but if we need to reach out to you, you can get us on the phone.
Right.
So that's important. Like, don't put up with lackluster service you may be getting today, because this stuff is too important to wait. And you need some quality humans who know what they're talking about to help you out. That's,
Exactly.
so, well, that's great. Katie, I appreciate all those insights too, and the back and forth. But it looks like we did get a couple questions. If anybody does have any questions
Perfect.
for Katie, please reach out. I think one of them is, on the very first slide, I think we mentioned that, and I think it's funny because I glossed right over it, but I think we need to understand that, there is fairly high turnover in a contact center. So how do you think that, you know, the technology we talked about, sort of the cloud solutions that we provide, how can that help with turnover, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the people calling in, it might be very basic questions. So the technology can help understand what users are calling in for. It can automate things so that, not only are maybe easier questions answered by some kind of AI that helps kind of keep call volumes down, but also it can weed out fraudulent calls. We all deal with those crap calls that come through, and the AI systems can help weed that out before it bogs down your actual employees who are
Right.
there to have real conversations.
Yeah.
um, and the technology, it just helps us continue not only to improve the voice conversations, but I think we briefly touched on it. It helps us know what do we need to add to our knowledge base. What information is being asked over and over that maybe we need to do a webinar on. That data is really important to the entire company.
Yep. For sure. Wow, I knew this was going to come through. They say, I'm confused when you mention inbound redundancy. Katie, how would you, because I feel like I bungle it half the time. Because anyway, it is a little confusing, but can you tell people more about what we can do on the inbound side?
Yeah, I mean, I know people are shocked and they don't believe it.
Yeah.
But I've
Yeah.
I've seen it done as quickly as, a couple of minutes.
Yep.
So, traditionally you think of, I have one phone provider. And if they have a problem, I'm out of luck until they get that restored. We, as our network, have multiple providers basically on the back end that we're taking advantage of. So we can quickly move your number from a carrier that might be having a widespread outage. It might just be a regional outage that is affecting your calls. We can flip that to a different carrier network on the back end and get that number back up and running for you.
Yep.
And I've seen it done. We've had customers call in. They don't even know that it's a carrier outage. They don't really know what the problem is, but our team's able to identify it, make a quick change on the back end, and they're up and running within a matter of minutes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are used to the old method of how this all worked, Katie, because you and I have been through the transition where you'd have to file paperwork and
Yeah.
you'd have to wait, and then both sides would have to sign off, and then you would have a date and a time, and you'd wait for the switch. You don't have to do any of that anymore. So it's
No.
just like on the outbound leg where you can have 40 carriers en route now with our software. And when as soon as you place that call, our software goes, "Oh, you're placing a call from here to here. Let me find the best carriers with an S to route that call through for quality and cost." And you don't even have to think about it. Well, now you don't even have to think about it on the inbound side. So,
Right.
to your point, if you only had one phone carrier, what would happen? Your call center would go quiet. Nobody would be able to call you, right? That means your phone number, whoever you have that phone number with on the inbound side is having an issue. Your calls, your room goes quiet. Well, you would basically go into your account. Ideally, once we get this integrated today, you would talk to Katie or one of her other folks and be like, "Hey, I'm having trouble with my number here. We're not getting any calls." And we would literally make a change, and you'd wait, as you said, less than 5, 6, 7 minutes. The phones would automatically start ringing again. You didn't have to file any paperwork.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. So, and it's so funny, this question, it always comes up like, are you sure? That doesn't sound
Right.
real, because literally nobody else offers that yet. And it's only
Yeah.
because, guys, look, we bought a company called Commio. Has it been 4 years now, Katie, I think?
Gosh, yeah.
Anyway, Sam Schiffman came on board, and he had already built this LATA network, okay? And we already had our network. So we put it all together in one pool. And what that means is that, as you mentioned, Katie, we have multiple providers in almost, I guess more than 80% of our network now. There's more than
Yeah.
one provider on the inbound
Right.
side, which most other people who are in this space, I'm looking at you, bandwidth, can't say that, because they may be the only provider in many locations because they built their own network. Why do they need anybody else? They technically don't until they have a problem.
Exactly.
So we can say in some markets we have three providers. We don't
Yeah.
need three, we just do. So because we can buy numbers and do things differently. So our network has never been larger, more resilient. And I can't wait to be able to market this inbound redundancy. There's going to be a cost associated with it. I don't think it's going to be that egregious, but if you're running a contact center and you want to future-proof your solution, you should
Yeah.
sign up with Commio. I said it. I know I'm not supposed to market
Yes.
on these things, but seriously, this is available today. Like Katie said, our guys can do this work for you now. but it's going to be part of our platform pretty soon, where it'll be the only one in town where you can control everything from dial to delivery with an
Great.
API or with our platform. So that's super exciting. I mean,
It is.
that's what gets us out of bed in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, Katie, thank you so much for all this. And like I mentioned to everybody on
Yeah.
the call, we did record it. We'll send around the recording. And if you have any questions, reply. I get every single one of those questions, and I make sure Katie or her team answers them. So don't be bashful. So, anything else
Awesome.
before we sign off here, Katie? We're great.
I think we covered it. But I appreciate
Nice.
everybody joining. And like Tim said, definitely reach out. We are happy to help you.
Awesome. Well, for those of you in the US, happy early Memorial Day. Is
Yeah.
it too early to be thinking about the long weekend? I don't think so.
No,
It's coming up quick.
it
But
is.
if for those who celebrate, have a wonderful long weekend, and hope everybody had a great start to their summer season. So with that, we'll sign off here from beautiful sunny Raleigh, and
Oh,
we appreciate
yeah.
your time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tim.
All right, bye.